This is just another example of someone who was a carpenter by trade.
Did that for about 6 years, just really didn't enjoy the industry and the work. I'd worked at the mines for a couple of years once I'd finished my trade, building mining camps and stuff, and it's just long hours, big stints out there. We had a business partner, he was a mentor of mine in the early days, and he loaned us capital to kind of get up and running. So we're going to launch this, everyone's going to crush it. We ordered 10,000 units. We sold about 12 units or something to start with, and it was we're fucked. I went 7 years without taking a single holiday, and I kind of had the thought, what if the coffee company shut down as well? So I've just done the last 7 years and not done anything for myself. It was the second birthday sale that we did. We'd switched to Shopify. On the first day, we made 200 grand. And having been just ticked over 2 years, it was okay, there's something here from the get-go. The goal was to work with Formula One.
And you realize, holy shit, we are living the dream now. All right, guys, welcome back. We have another e-com episode for you guys today. I know you guys are going to love it. We have Jaryd, one of the co-founders for Before You Speak Coffee. These guys are one of the OG Aussie e-com brands that have absolutely killed it. Absolutely massive brand selling at massive scale. So we talk about obviously the e-com growth journey, how they expanded internationally and how they expanded and had a lot of success with retail launches as well as the new product development journey as well. So much value for you e-com listeners. You're going to want to bring a pen and paper to this one. They've also partnered with an Alpine F1 team. So they're really executing on a level that not many other Aussie e-com brands are. So we'll get into the podcast in a second. For those of you watching on YouTube, thank you to everyone who's been liking and subscribing to the channel recently. We're on the road to 5K and we're getting there really, really soon. So thank you so much. Please, if you're listening to this podcast and if you enjoyed this one or any of the ones in the past, please like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. I genuinely do. I know it only takes you a second or two, but it doesn't go unnoticed and I really appreciate it. And for everyone listening on the audio platforms, if you could subscribe and give us a 5-star rating, I'd really appreciate that too. Anyway, enough from me. Let's get into the podcast. All right, let's rock and roll. We're back with another e-com one. We've got one of the e-com OGs in the house today. Heaps of you guys would have seen them. We've got Jaryd Terkelsen, the co-founder of Before You Speak Coffee. You guys are one of the first e-com brands. You launched before us that I saw really start to grow. You would have been in that golden age of where e-com really started to boom. So I'm going to be really interesting to talk to you. I want to talk about all the journeys and break it down into I'm sure if you look back, there's clear different stages of the journey where you had to evolve and to where you guys are now. We were just chatting off air, sponsoring F1 teams and rolling out national woolies. You guys have come a long way from a little startup brand. Were you from Townsville or something originally?
Originally, I moved down to Sunshine Coast for maybe 9 months with my business partner. He was living there at the time. But yeah, we launched it kind of in southeast Queensland.
Yeah. Cool. Let me do a little bit of an intro for those that don't know Jaryd and Before You Speak Coffee. Just a really short one, then we'll crack into it. So as I said, co-founder of an Aussie e-com OG, one of the e-com mammoths in Australia. So Before You Speak Coffee, for those that don't know, they're a performance coffee brand. Well, what I just learned is they're no longer just a performance coffee brand. They're a coffee brand in all sorts of categories, but their main OG blend is a performance blend with nootropics like turmeric, MCT oil and ginseng. Launched in 2017, they sold over 2 million coffees in the first 18 months, which is a drop in the ocean to what they do now. But we'll just leave that at that. Stocked in thousands of retailers across the country and doing really cool things around the world. Jaryd, welcome to the podcast. He's been a busy man. Many podcasts he's been on this week. So hopefully this one's a little bit different and we can chat some real nitty gritty e-com things.
We're fine-tuned. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, he's ready to go. So let's start. Look, we'll start at the start, the early stages. You said you moved down to southeast Queensland with your business partner, Ash. Why this business? What got you into this business? Why performance coffee? Why was this a problem you wanted to solve?
I was always very entrepreneurial. I've started a range of businesses over the years, but I guess my background is I was a carpenter by trade. So I used to be a builder, did that for about 6 years, just really didn't enjoy the industry and the work. So wanting to move into something towards the health and fitness space, I actually went and worked in retail for probably only 6 months. And that was in sports nutrition. So working in supplement stores. And from there, I was classic entrepreneur, wasn't good at having a boss. So that didn't last very long. It didn't last long. And then I started a personal training company with my partner at the time. Did that for about 3 years and that went fairly well. But when we went our separate ways, I'd already had this working in the background, but we'd identified an opportunity having been in sports nutrition space and both being avid coffee drinkers and already kind of using different types of supplements and vitamins and mixing different things in. Looking at the market, we saw what green tea was starting to do. They'd had a little run in the early days with the X50s of the world. and thought, why is nobody doing this with coffee? So had a crack, and it 8 years in, so it seemed to be working.
I just want to shout out like one thing you said there as well. I do quite a lot of ecom mentoring as well. And because my path to like, you know, getting into ecom was from corporate, I expected just like you project your experience. I'm getting a lot of people that work an office job they hate. They want to get out of that 9 to 5 grind and replace their income. I reckon it's 50-50 between like FIFO, like mining workers and tradies that are in the same position as you that don't necessarily love their work they're doing, their backbreaking work day in, day out, don't necessarily have a boss that appreciates them. And this is just another example of someone who was a carpenter by trade, tried that for 6 years, realized, hey, it's probably not for you, made some changes. And I look at the position you're in. Like, I just want to shout that out because there'd be a lot of people that are working jobs like that think, that can't happen for me. But you're just a living example of what's possible when you put your mind to something. So that's pretty cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess early 20s, I was like, I've got a long career to go. So I don't want to be doing this. Do
you remember that day that you got out of like carpentry? Did you feel like you're never going back, or were you like, I could see myself back here in a few
kind
years?
Of phased, right? So I'd worked at the mines for a couple of years once I'd finished my trade, building mining camps and stuff. And it's just long hours, like big stints out there. And I moved back to Townsville full time, started my own construction company. And I probably only did that for 6 to 12 months, but just not enjoying it. So I would do Monday to Friday, I'd run my company. And then on weekends, I'd go and work in the supplement store on Saturday, Sunday. So did that for a few months. My business partner was working with Australian Sports Nutrition as national operations manager. So he's like, just want to manage the Townsville store. Like massive pay cut, step backwards, but it was kind of a step in the right direction for where I wanted to go. How
did you reconcile that decision to take a big pay cut to do that? Because I feel that's the thing so many people don't want to do, even though sometimes you need to take a step back to go forward. How did you reconcile that? Was it an easy decision? Was it a difficult decision? Because I think a lot of people have acquired a lifestyle that they enjoy, doing work they really don't, and they want to get out of that without stepping back their lifestyle or the money they earn. And look, it is possible to do both at the same time, but it can be really difficult for some. How did you make that decision?
I think I just felt like I had to take a crack. I was like, if it didn't work out, I could always go back to it. Like nothing was stopping me from doing that. And it felt like a step in the right direction when I was doing it, even though I wasn't making as much money to start with. Like I was enjoying myself, like doing long days, doing something you're passionate about is very different to working 12 to 14 hour days at the mines, doing something that you're not passionate about. So it all felt like easy work.
I want to ask you this. I was going to ask you a little bit later on, but I think this is like a really interesting question. Like the success that you have had, do you feel like that's given you more peace or created like more stress and more pressure than you maybe knew going into it?
Good question. I don't think it's necessarily related to how much we're doing in the business or what we're doing. I think like through the journey, like you've learnt lessons. Like probably the first 6 or 7 years, like I felt highly strung, like I was trying to control everything. When you have some, I guess, difficult lessons in business. So I started a tech company, and we can talk about that shortly, as I was building Before You Speak as well. And we did that for about 3 years. Couldn't quite get traction in the market. We'd poured $1.5 million into doing it. When we made the decision to shut that down, it kind of made me look for answers in different places and gave me like different perspectives. I went 7 years without taking a single holiday when we were first kind of building BYS. And I kind of had the thought, what if the coffee company shut down as well? So I've just done the last 7 years and not done anything for myself. So I guess that forced me to take a step back and relook at what I was doing and give me new perspectives on like building, because it needs to be for the long term. So it kind of allowed me to reframe how I look at things, and a big part of me, me moving down to Sydney as well, is for a better lifestyle.
Hey, just quickly, if you're interested in getting started in e-com or scaling your current brand, or maybe even just getting your current idea off the ground, then send me a message on Instagram and I'll reply to you personally as soon as I get a chance. I usually only take on a few people per month for mentorship. So if you're interested in having a chat, shoot me a DM with the word mentor and we'll go from there. Anyway, enough from me. Let's get back to the pod. So do you feel like coming to Sydney, have you been able to, like, is it something that you had to give yourself a little bit of a break and not put too much pressure on yourself? I feel like as entrepreneurs, we're often our own biggest critics. And the thing that sort of eats me or keeps me up at night sometimes is if you've got things that you need to do and you feel like if you know when you've put in a good day's work, but you also know when you've got a little bit distracted and you've spent a little bit too much time chatting to the team, it's those days where I know I didn't execute to my potential that it keeps me up at night. How do you balance wanting to be as effective as you can and you're passionate about the mission and growing the business with, hey, I also got to be kind to myself or I won't be able to do this long term?
I think that just comes with time, like learning to know yourself and know where your limits are. Like early years was all about hustling, doing the big hours, like not taking days off, being in the office 7 days a week. And I was like, you would go through phases where I just wasn't productive anyway. So you could be sitting in front of your computer, but your output was still not very productive. So it's like my output now is higher while I'm, I guess, having more of a lifestyle. Yeah. And for me, that's kind of moving down here, being back by the ocean, which is kind of where I'm happiest.
The point of diminishing returns is what like Hormozi talks about as well. And he's probably one of like the biggest like hustle workers in the world. He loves it. He lives for it. He'll work and work and work. And then it's like, okay, when he feels that he's no longer being as effective as he can, he'll go watch Netflix for half an hour, whatever it takes. Then he gets back into it. So I think everyone needs to find their own limit. And I think that thick skin to dealing with the pressure and that always on. Yes, at the start, it's kind of easier because it's all new and you're going off adrenaline. Then once you get through the first 2 years, you really need to fine tune that ability to listen to your own body. Because when you do get to that burnout stage, and if you've experienced burnout yourself, I'm not sure. I feel like I maybe have experienced burnout twice. The first time I experienced burnout, I reckon it maybe took me like a week to recover. And I just like, that you feel like that brain fog and you can't think, you're like, why aren't I myself? The second time I experienced burnout a couple of years ago, I reckon it took me like a month to feel myself again. And that was really scary. Have you ever had any moments like that with like a prolonged period of burnout where you just took you a while to reset?
Yeah, probably multiple times, to be honest, especially when I was juggling both businesses at once. The tech company wasn't getting the traction we needed. Yeah. BYS, so we went through a journey the first, I think 4 years or something, 3 or 4 years, we're growing at least doubling year on year. Yeah. And then we put in a CEO and a commercial officer and we went backwards for the first time. So once we removed those, I then had 2 businesses that weren't in a very good spot. So it just kind of, the pressure was on, couldn't really afford to take time off. Yeah. So I was pushing through those moments, but definitely had moments where I just kind of burned out. And then getting past those, it was like you just realize you just need to step away from it, get into new environments, do something that kind of allows you to switch off, which is tricky. But again, over time, you start to learn what works for you.
What was the thought behind putting in a CEO? Because I think it can be a great decision for founders to do for multiple reasons. Talk me through the decision-making process and then what the realization was after, for the first time you didn't grow, you actually went backwards.
I think being young in business, you always look for more experienced people to help you as well. And it was probably just an element of not backing ourselves when we should have. So we thought, well, if we can bring someone to take us to the next level, because none of us have done this before, let's bring in a more experienced head. And we did that, but they weren't as experienced in startups. So they're more of a corporate background. They didn't quite get what it takes, especially for an e-commerce brand, how things work with Meta, social media, influencer marketing, all those kind of channels that really made us who we were in the early days. Expensive lesson to learn. Not saying that we will never do it again. You know what I mean? So I guess at my core, I'm always the entrepreneurial one. My business partner, he's very much the operational side of the business. I think we'll get to a stage where it probably makes sense potentially to put someone in, but at the moment things are working well and nobody knows the business ourselves. So we'll keep riding the wave while it's going well.
Let's go back to those early stages again. Mate, I know you would think like this now. Maybe back then you would have thought differently. I know I think a lot differently now than when I first started my first business. But you were speaking about, you were seeing what was happening in the green tea space. There was no one really doing this in coffee. Probably back then it was the bulletproof coffee was the only thing that sort of started this whole trend. What, if anything, did you do to validate that the product had demand before you launched? Or did you just have a good idea and think, we think this will work, let's give it a crack?
Yeah, we just, to be honest, we just kind of backed ourselves on the thought. We had seen the trends of what Dave Asprey and Bulletproof Coffee was doing in the US, which is still super early with those guys. They're maybe 2 or 3 years into their journey, but growing rapidly over there. And knowing what green tea had done, way more people drink coffee than tea. Yeah. So we kind of just took a punt on it.
So what did those early, so like that first year or two look like? What was the main strategy then? Like 2017 you launched, so influencers were probably pretty like in their prime effectiveness in those like 2-3 years after launch. Obviously meta ads were a lot cheaper than they are today. What got you to that first couple million in sales?
I think very much like pushing socials and doing the influencer marketing.
Yeah.
Like we worked with a couple of agencies and just got burnt back in the early days, as I'm sure many people.
Yeah.
It's a familiar story, like we've all been there. So we could have been way more effective in that space with meta ads if we knew what we were doing. But it was still a bit of a blind spot for us. So very much leaning into just like building brand and having a unique product and knowing who our audience was. Like we had good network and connections in health and fitness, like working with all the gyms, like the world gyms, the ASNs, and just kind of leveraging those partnerships, doing just shitloads of product sampling, really allowed us to kind of get the product into market, build a niche audience and build out from that to get to the first 7 figures.
Because you guys were like such early movers in your space, what did you have to do, or how did you approach positioning the business differently so it was really clear for someone seeing this the first time, well, why is this coffee brand so much more expensive than, Nescafe or whatever? How did you go about positioning yourself different to the existing like coffee brands in that space? And then fast forward a year or two after people hearing about your success, how you positioned or differentiated yourself to the plethora of competitors that would follow?
Yeah, like the pricing was a tricky one. Like at the start, everybody said that there is no way you guys are going to sell a box of coffee for $70. Yeah. So like it was an uphill battle from the get-go, but like with pricing, like it's much easier to come down than it is to go up. So we held strong with that, and we did a lot of, pricing comparisons and cost comparisons of what it would cost you if you bought your vitamins and then your coffee and then added all the ingredients up. And it was like per serve, like paying $2.33 for a sachet for one of ours at full retail ends up being a lot cheaper. And it's like that was a lot of the messaging. And the people that were already buying the supplements, I think that resonated with them.
Who were the early adopters? Like, what was the key like customer personas, do you think, for you in the early days? Was it the fitness crew? Was it entrepreneurs? Who were those like early adopters that really got behind before you speak?
I think definitely people into their health and fitness, like the gym goers, like the guys that would be taking supplements daily as well. I think it took a little bit of an educated consumer in the early days to understand why someone would use our coffee, and that kind of helped us to kind of influence and build the brand, especially in supplement stores. Yeah. Partnering with some supplement stores, because originally we wanted to be e-commerce only, but we had some relationships, I guess, through our network. So we ended up going into your ASN nutrition warehouse and having customers go into those stores in the early days and actually get educated by the salespeople as well, who all understood the product. That was, I guess, a big part of helping us build our brand.
I'd love to chat about like, obviously your key like acquisition channels would have been, I'm sure in the early days, similar to everyone else, Meta, like Facebook ads, influencers, some Google, but outside of just like your acquisition channels, I know you guys have like sponsored the Sydney Marathon. You've done like, you do a bunch of like activations and stuff. What are some of the key activations that you guys have done over the years to build brand outside of just your traditional social media marketing?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of partnerships with gyms and stuff, any kind of fitness communities we could get into. Big one now is obviously the run clubs.
Massive the last couple of years, eh?
So we've really kind of leaned into that, but like we've done a lot with CrossFit over the years as well. Now that High Rocks is starting to trend, moving into that kind of space. But yeah, I guess most recently the bigger ones are like the Sydney Marathon, and like pairing the run clubs with that has kind of given us a lot to lean into.
Because you spoke about like a lot of like sampling in the early days. Do you just want to get the brand out there? Do you want to get people trying it for the first time? Like what's the idea behind these activations? Like what is the goal behind these activations?
When I say to you, we've got coffee mixed with turmeric and ginseng, like what's your initial thought?
What's that going to taste like, right?
Yeah, exactly. So for us, it was like, it piques people's interest. But they're like,
can you taste it? Yeah.
People are, I guess when we first started, instant coffee was a dirty word as well. So people thinking it was like instant coffee with all this other stuff. Like, is that going to taste like shit? So I guess having backed our product and knowing the flavor profiles that we've got and the quality of the coffee that we use and all the other ingredients, it was like just getting product in hand and getting people to try it. They actually loved it, but then they also felt better than they did just having a regular coffee. So that was big for customer acquisition and still is for us today.
Yeah. What was like one of the early tipping moments? And, you know, I spoke about when I did the intro, I want to talk about like looking back and reflecting. What was some of like the key like stages of before you speak? What do you think was the tipping moment, or like whether there was like a marketing channel or a marketing campaign that really started to perform me like this is really scalable? What was that first tipping moment that took you out of that first stage, that really early startup phase into starting to be more of a mature brand?
Good question. I'm trying to think back if there was like a specific moment that kind of grabs me. I feel like we started to get really strong growth on social media, and it's like just a really engaged audience. And I think once we kind of had that ball rolling, it allowed us to lean into things like we'd get our customers like tagging stores like that we wanted to be into. Then like the retailer would reach out, like, I don't know who you guys were before like 24 hours ago, but it looks like we've got to stock your product.
I love that stuff.
So leaning into it and kind of trying to do a little bit of guerrilla marketing and that style. Yeah, over the years, it was, while it moved quickly, it still felt like it was fairly gradual. When we started getting into some of the bigger stores like Priceline, that was probably a moment for us. But again, like that did not go well.
How so?
I guess
like pharmacy, not the right place for this sort of product?
Just a different type of retail compared to somewhere like your sports, like your health store, like your Go Fighters or
do you think you're in there too early maybe as well? Was that a factor for where the brand was? Or
I think there was a number of contributing factors. Like we went in there the same time that we put in a CEO and stuff. So I was like, we very much changed how we were marketing as well. And I think that kind of influenced their decisions with what we were doing. So like, well, different audience, let's start talking about the brand and product differently. And they are a more sophisticated retailer, so mapping out what those marketing strategies and stuff look like, it was all very new to us. We probably didn't really get it right, but lessons learned and kind of helped us tweak it and move forward.
What's your split? Like, do you lean slightly more male than female in terms of customers, or pretty balanced?
Slightly more female. Slightly more female. It was more heavily female. We're probably close to 70-30 for a while, for a big part of our journey. I think now bringing out some of these new products and having some of the bigger partnerships with like the Formula One, bringing more of a male audience, and like the iced latte cans that we've launched where we're back fairly close to 50-50, maybe 55-45.
Interesting. I don't know why my assumption was more male. Again, maybe like a projection of myself and like my interests, but interesting. I also feel like when it comes to e-com brands in general, if you're going to start a brand and you can go, like, create a product and go after specifically females or specifically males, I feel like females tend to spend more money online than guys do. So you really have to work to, like, you know, that story about how many touch points it takes to get someone to good. I feel like with the guys more cynical when it comes to online purchasing. So sometimes people have like all these great ideas, like male only skincare and all these ideas that are great on paper. The reason sometimes there isn't too many of them is because it's pretty hard market to crack. But looking back and reflecting, what do you think if you had to break them down into like stages? And I know you didn't have these questions until we sat down and spoke. What do you think are there like three key stages? Do you think like what would you look like? How would you look back and break down each one of them? And the reason I want to ask is for everyone listening, we have a lot of people that are e-com founders listening at various different stages. I'd love to know like how you bridge the gap from one stage to the next, and what are the key focuses in terms of the activities that you're focusing on that takes a brand through these stages.
Yeah, I think there probably is some clear ones for us, and that's because like we grew really quickly in the first 4 years, like I mentioned, and then once we kind of declined, it put us in like, even though we raised a little bit of capital in the early days, so we raised $2 million, did not utilize that capital well at all.
Was that your first time raising capital?
Yeah.
What did that process look like for you when you say didn't utilize it well? didn't know what to spend it, or like what
Well, I think there was a number of factors, but obviously having the revenue go backwards so strong while increasing like fixed costs and headcount and stuff. And at the same time, we actually set up our own manufacturing to do the ready to drink. Yeah. And like all of that just did not go to plan. Let's just say that. So I think like if I was to put it into phases, like years 1 to 4, where like things were just taking off like a rocket ship, and then years maybe 5 and 6 or that kind of period is maybe 18 months. There was just a lot of cleanup, like where we went back, we had to kind of try to rebuild the brand. Like we cleaned house with a lot of people, just went back to our roots, kind of getting the fundamentals working again and doing it all on really tight cash flow as well. It was a tricky period.
What do you feel like is the most difficult decision you've had to make as a founder?
Possibly like having to like fire a lot of people, including like the CEO and like a bunch of senior management. It was difficult, but if we didn't do it when we did it, we probably wouldn't have a business. Yeah.
What was that conversation like with you and Ash when you realized, hey, you gotta do this?
It was a tricky one, like where we knew it had to happen. We also both had other things going on at the time. We're like, well, unless we do it now, like we're not going to have anything to fight for with this business anyway. So it was kind of, we really didn't have a choice. Our backs were up against the wall a little bit, but I think once we'd made the call and sat down and just got it done, it was like a weight off our shoulders.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's like, I've had maybe only a couple of times I've had to, maybe once or twice, let go of someone, older than you. It's quite a confronting experience, particularly when your first business didn't really come through the corporate space where you went through the different levels and hired people and fired people and got to be a part of that process. It can be quite daunting, but I feel like, the growth you go through as an entrepreneur, particularly when you have a growing business, people think, a growing business was so easy. The faster your business is growing, like, yes, maybe in the first 6 months, there's not many problems, but the problems will come off the back of that, and how you navigate that is massive. How did you deal with all those challenges in terms of like trying to turn you guys into just like the brand into the manufacturing like function as well? What was the lesson and what did that experience look like to be a fly on the wall?
With the manufacturing, with the ready-to-drink range and the cans specifically, like we just couldn't find anyone to do it for us. So it's like we've got them into market now, but it took us 5 years to get here.
Oh, wow.
So I guess the tricky things were getting the shelf life that you need for major retail. They want at least kind of 6 to 12 months to be taking products, and also just getting a commercial price point, getting someone that can kind of make the product for cheap enough that allows you to have the margins when you sit on shelf, and then have the distributors in the middle and the retailers get the margins that they want. Yeah. So we had a crack at it, and it was just kind of problem after problem. We quickly learned that we weren't manufacturers. We were good at sales and marketing, and that was kind of good lesson because like it could have happened on a larger scale as well. So we probably burnt 250, 300K on that alone, but it didn't put us in the bin. So
yeah, I mean, setting up a manufacturing facility and going through that is a lot of problems that a lot of people probably don't need to have. So that's crazy. I want to talk about some of the scrappy decisions you did in the early days, because yes, you raised money, but you probably couldn't have raised money with a little bit of a track record of success. For those like early stage entrepreneurs, like, I feel like some people come on and they have these really cool like guerrilla marketing or these really cool ideas that they didn't have a lot of money. Did you have any moments or any things that you did that was you reflecting on was quite scrappy, or like leaning on connections or anything in the early days that gave you a good bang for buck without having a massive marketing budget?
I think even from the get-go, so we had a third business partner like that. He was a mentor of mine in the early days, and he loaned us capital to kind of get up and running. To start with, we ordered 10,000 units like of the OG, and like
the boxes or sachets?
No, the boxes. So,
10,000
and
was the first order.
Like, sweet, like no heaps of influencers. We're going to launch this and it's going to crush it. Yeah. And it was like when we did launch, I think we sold about 12 units or something to start with, and it was like, we're fucked. So like I think expensive lessons, like just understanding like being over ambitious and what we'd actually kind of be able to achieve. but that also probably helped us pivot some decisions of like when we did move into retailers and we worked with distributors and stuff and opened up those things. It was like, we've got all this product sitting here. We need to move it somehow because that's all cash tied up. Otherwise we won't get past second base.
Crazy. I love hearing these stories about like the truth about what the early stages look like for the brands that have gone on and had success, because it isn't like it's so different for every brand, and everyone has these crazy stories. And I feel like every big brand has, you know, one or two moments where if things didn't go their way, it could have been see you later, goodbye, end of story. Cool. So there's a few things I want to talk about, but I think there's a big thing that I'm always really interested in terms of like the founder journey and building businesses, like that mindset or that mental journey that you go on as a founder. You mentioned you were like a carpenter by trade, you know, really ambitious guy, entrepreneur, you wanted to start this business. I can think of so many people that I've spoken to in the last 6 months that would fall into that category. What was that moment, if you can look back, where, I don't know if you're by yourself or you're with Ash and you realize, holy shit, like we are living the dream now. Like the dream is like coming true. I can pinpoint that for me. What was that for you?
I think our second birthday sale. So the first time, I think we did a first birthday sale on year one, and we had a really shitty website, and it crashed within an hour, and it took us 3 days to get back up.
Oh, no.
So I was like, that wasn't a good start. It was like the second birthday sale that we did. We'd switched to Shopify.
Yeah.
And I think on the first day we made 200 grand.
Fuck, that's a pretty good start.
And having been like just ticked over 2 years, it was like, okay, there's something here.
Yeah.
Like we'd never done anything like that before. So that was a pretty good feeling, and it felt like we're heading in the right direction.
I remember like we were probably doing like 30K days, and that first day we went from like averaging like a 30K something day to like your first 6-figure day. It just completely changes the way that you see business and money. It's like, I would have had to work 2 whole years to earn 100 grand, and now you're doing it in a day. It's fucking mental. And I love hearing these like stories from people going through this, because in Australia, we probably don't have as much of an entrepreneurial culture as like over in the US and other places. But it still is a really good place to launch businesses, but it's a difficult journey at the same time. What's something about like the mental game of entrepreneurship that you didn't know going into it that you quickly learnt?
I think it's probably just setting your expectations on a longer time horizon. Like you hear that, like every experienced founder is going to tell you the same thing, but assume you're not an outlier. Like assume you're not going to be one of the massive success stories that you see popped up overnight. Like you just need to be resilient enough to kind of keep showing up. And while I guess it looks like we've done all right, we're nowhere near what we originally set out to do.
Mm-hmm. What was that moment then you spoke about? Because you obviously did have a good first 2 years, but the first day when you like send it all these products to influencers, they'll probably sell like 10 or 20 boxes each. You're lucky to get a sale out of each of them. What was like, how long did it take for the things slowly start to click for you? Was it first few months, first couple of weeks? Like when did you first feel that momentum starting to build?
Probably somewhere between the 3 to 6 month mark.
Okay.
Like things started to kind of trickle in and just be like a little bit more consistent for us. And then once that was probably around that point, somewhere between 6 to 12 months where we went into like physical retail with the supplement stores as well. And just knowing we kind of had that and like products started moving in their stores, we kind of knew, all right, we should be able to at least get through this initial stock.
Was there in that stage, like that first like year or two of growth, like where your life sort of changing before your eyes, was there a like belief or like a mindset that you had to let go of in order to grow? Because you have to evolve so often as an entrepreneur. Were there any moments that you remember, okay, shit, I really need to level up if I want to become the leader that can take before you speak to where it's meant to be?
I think we were probably blindly ambitious with what we could achieve the whole time. Probably a little bit too much so.
Yeah.
So like we always backed ourselves that we could do it. It was probably more resetting our expectations on how quickly that would move and what we could actually achieve.
I mean, at least in my experience, like I always underestimate how long things will take or how hard things will be. It's just like a bad trait of mine. And I'm starting to now, at least I know myself, I'll have those like expectations and I'll set a goal and I'll be like, okay, yeah, but probably double it if you want to be realistic. Yeah. How does success feel like now that you're nowhere near, like you just said, you got massive goals and you're still only, you still got a long way to go in terms of where you want to take the brand. But does success, air quote success, feel any different to how you would have thought, as a 21-year-old or the guy back on the tools back in the day? Have you arrived in the way that you thought you would have?
I don't think so. I'm definitely probably at a level where it's like a little bit more comfortable. Mm-hmm. But like, inventory-based businesses, they're tricky because every level of growth that you unlock just requires so much more cash. So it's not like you're sitting pretty and there's lots
just
of cash in the bank.
Just banking the cash every month.
Yeah. It was like you'll have a lot of cash in the bank one day and then the next day it's drained again. It's going to pay for more inventory, especially like going into major retailers, like doing national ranging and stuff. Like you've got to pull cash from somewhere to pay for all of those inventory to go in. So I don't think there's, I don't know, even in the foreseeable future, like us feeling really comfortable.
It's a tricky one. Particularly with each level, it takes a whole new level of investment as well. So you're not like when you place that first invoice, a lot of people are really, holy shit, I'm putting 10 grand or 20 grand in. That's so much money. You have that experience consistently when you're growing because all of a sudden, okay, I'm putting a 50 grand order, 100 grand order, 500 grand order. So it gets really scary. But to take it back to that moment and that feeling, how do you think Jaryd, a 21 or 22-year-old Jaryd would feel now seeing, if you could see into the future and see you walking the F1 paddock as a partner of an F1 team?
I think he'd be pretty happy.
Yeah.
Definitely not where we want to be in terms of revenue and those types of numbers, but even from us from the get-go, the goal was to work with Formula One. Mm-hmm. And
so you had a goal of that early on?
Yeah. We always wanted, I guess, performance coffee, there's nothing more than high performance sport than Formula One. So I think in our second year of business, we were talking to Danny Ricciardo's manager just as he left Red Bull. And he tried the product and everything, but he'd just left Red Bull and it's still a little bit of a conflict. I don't know how the fuck we would have paid for it either. So I was that didn't go to plan, but it was always in our vision to kind of be involved in the sport with the brand.
Were you, have you been an F1 fan growing up, or where did you fall in love with the idea of getting into F1? Because we were chatting off air, it is the pinnacle of sport in the world. If you understand what it's like, and if you talk about freak athletes, I don't think people that don't watch it realize the insane level of athletes that these people are, both physically and even more so mentally. To notice these little, the road, the tiniest little angle, they know where to hit the brake. It's fucking mental. Where did you fall in love with that? And then to see that such a big dream come into fruition, what does that make you believe about what's possible in life and business?
Yeah, I think I was always a fan of the sport. It probably wasn't until many people, it was the first season of Drive to Survive.
Yeah, that was me.
And I was
guilty.
When you actually started to understand the teams and the drivers, from then, I was hooked.
That was the best thing they've ever done.
100%.
I was never really much of a car guy, but you watch that and you get invested in the storylines and the people.
Yeah.
And I just fell in love with it. What do you think? Obviously, what was a lot of people that follow F1 would have obviously seen the news. While it is the pinnacle sport and it's quite a glamorous sport, it's also the most, ruthless and savage. If you want to be the best sport in the world, it's, really fine lines in terms of performance and metrics and what they're looking for. What was your instant reaction when you saw the news about Jack losing his seat to Franco?
Yeah, gutted. So he'd messaged me the night before letting me know the news, and you've just got to feel for him, right? Don't want to say too much, but obviously we work with Alpine and stuff as well, but it's a tricky position for him to be in because it hasn't felt like he had the backing and the support from the team that he should have from the get-go. Being a rookie, you should at least be guaranteed your first season. Mm-hmm. So I feel for Jack more than anything, but he proved himself that he's up there, he's doing lap times and his qualities getting through Q1, Q2, and mixing it with every other driver on the grid. So he deserves to be there. And unfortunately in Formula One, it's cutthroat and it's not always just about the talent and the times. It's the money and everything that kind of comes around with it. So he's got such a strong mindset. And I think having his old boy Mick there to lean on as well has been great for him. But his focus is just getting back into another seat, whether that's this season. Again, Franco's only guaranteed 5 races, so he needs to perform. If not, Jack will potentially be back in, and then who knows what happens next season. But
it's pretty cool to have that sort of access to people at that level of sport, because I think that level of mindset is rare, like uncommon amongst uncommon people. Like that's really cool to be around those sorts of people, and I feel like you learn and grow from osmosis being around like such a high performance environment like F1.
Yeah, 100%.
It's like shit.
I think the value for us, like, so we've got a partnership with Alpine for the next 3 seasons. And just having the experience being there with Jack and the boys and like being in the paddock, like the people that you meet, again, like you said, like it elevates you. Like they're all playing on a much higher level. So it's kind of inspiring to be around. And it's like you just make great connections as well.
How often are you going to get to races?
So we'll probably do 5 to 6 this year.
Yeah, cool.
We did Abu Dhabi end of last year for his first race. We did obviously AusGP here.
Yeah.
I went over to Suzuka in Japan. Potentially go to Silverstone. We're still tossing up. We've just got so much happening in the business right now, which is in a few weeks' time. But we'll do Singapore, probably Austin in the US in October. And then finish at Abu Dhabi again because we just launched in the UAE, so we'll do activations across there.
You just mentioned like the level in which they execute and operate is probably unheard of or unseen for most people. In terms of like seeing the way that they work, has it taught you anything about high performance culture that you've been able to take back into your own team?
It's funny. Yeah, dealing with these guys, like, to be honest, like everything's a shit show. So like my lesson has been there's like at every different level and every company you deal with, everyone's going through the same stuff.
Yes.
So it is quite interesting. We still battle with it. Like we're having so many teething issues. So I guess now when we're recording the podcast this weekend is the Imola Grand Prix.
Yeah.
So we've just shipped a pallet of stock across there. And you get a 48-hour window to get it delivered into the paddock or it doesn't make it. And I was like, we got the last 2 right. This one, like DHL just didn't get it in there. So I was like, we've got no coffee there this weekend. So I was like, it's very tricky. So like logistically, it's quite hard.
Fine margins on and off the racetrack.
Yeah, they've just got so much going on. And it's like, I don't know how on earth they coordinate like the full season because like they pack up everything and move.
Every time,
like,
right?
Yeah, sometimes they got triple headers where they're just moving across the globe week after week.
How does someone get a collaboration with an F1 team? Obviously, you developed the relationship with the Aussie F1 driver, Jack Doohan, but, you know, what did that journey look like? Obviously, it's not going to be attainable for everyone, but I'd love, just out of my own curiosity, to know what that sort of process looked like.
For sure. So I guess it all happened fairly naturally for us. So we happened to be in Italy last year, Euro summer. Went across there. One of our mates was used to work for us, was getting married in England. And so we ducked across for a trip and Jack was over there. So met up with him and did a testing day at Imola. And then we went to the Monza Grand Prix with them and we just met the hospitality team that was showing us around. They loved what we did, thought it was a very natural collaboration. We gave them some product, like they loved the samples. And they just kind of said, why don't you guys just do the coffee for us at AusGP next year? We're like, yeah, let's chat when we get back. So
Sweet.
When we got back to Australia, probably a couple of months later, we jumped on a call and they're like, do you just want to do like the whole season with us? We're like, yeah, like absolutely. And then when they ended up sending through the contract, it ended up being for the next 3 seasons. Wow. So we're very lucky. It kind of happened very naturally.
To execute like a partnership at that level, though, obviously comes with like I'm sure quite a big cost. How do you, like, what was the play in terms of, okay, yes, it's a cool thing. And, you know, Jaryd and Ash get to live out, I'm sure, like some form of childhood dreams, like anyone would. But in terms of, it still has to make sense on some levels as a business case. What are you getting out of that F1 partnership with Alpine? And have you started to feel any impact on the business this early on in terms of first year of the partnership?
For sure. I think it's timed really well with our new product launches and going into major retail, especially with like the iced latte cans. It's like having that partnership gives us instant credibility as a brand. So we've been able to leverage that and I guess tie in promotional things when we get rangings across these major retailers. So it's like immediately like can kind of attribute some of that to having these partnerships.
You mentioned, rolling out to Woolies and you've got like multiple different categories of your products today. Talk to me, is what we were chatting off air about the normal coffee, is that public knowledge and stuff now?
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. Talk to me about that play. I wasn't sure if this is public information. Talk to me about moving into like the supermarket shelf space obviously you've got your functional coffee, which is what the brand was built on, but moving into like a traditional coffee space. What was the strategy behind that? And how do you then plan to execute and actually sell through in a completely different coffee category?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess where we've built the brand, like we're definitely have been very niche. Like functional coffee is still a niche audience. So while we can build a good business in it, to get to the size that we want to get to, we need to start catering for the masses. And in that, like over the years, we've introduced beans into our range and stuff. And that's come off the back of having conversations with customers. And we're like, how many coffees, like what does your coffee consumption look like? And they're like, well, I always take your performance coffee like as an afternoon pick me up or before I train as like a natural pre-workout. I was like, well, what do you have in the morning? They're like, well, I bought $1,000 espresso machine. So I still buy beans and I want to use that. And I was like, that's just like my creature comfort at home. Yeah. So like, well, if they're buying coffee beans, they may as well be buying our coffee beans. Like we want to be able to service whatever form of coffee consumption, however you want to consume it. Like we want to be able to have that, like be able to give that to you. So I guess with the new products coming online, again, rolling into Woolworths this week, we've done like instant lattes, like sachets. So they're, again, non-functional, no adaptogens in there. And like it's a different consumer. Like you said, it's a different audience. But for us, we've worked and partnered with Woolworths to understand, cool, what do they want in the category? Yeah. And like, how can we come in and service that? So we're about to go through a journey of, I guess, bringing on all these new customers, but making sure we stay true to the brand on who we are. So always at our core, we're going to be premium and aspirational. Like it's all going to be about, I guess, getting the most out of your day and giving you the coffee and the tools to do that. But it's like this audience is all very driven by price and taste. So we've still tried to stay true to ourselves where like all of the products on shelf are low sugar, low calories, low fat compared to your Nescafes and Mokonas who can't, well, their products just aren't that. Yeah. So we still have elements of who we are as a brand in there, but how we then market and talk to them will be very much through different channels, leveraging like their own channels as well. Is there a lesson or is there a consideration that you guys are taking from the experience with Priceline where you started talking to a different consumer group and you sort of lost your way? Is there an ethos or something that's keeping you guys on track to not lose that aspirational premium brand and sort of muddy the messaging, trying to be too many things to do, too many people at the same time? Yeah, I think like, think about how we split it out is like we've kind of tagged, like we've got the functional blends for performance when you want it and then like comfort for when you don't. Yes. So we've kind of split it out and been very clear on our messaging. It's like we've introduced it as a cafe series and that's more of a indulgence product. So pending what time of day and what you're getting after, like you don't always just want to be crushing it and like need to be going 1,000 miles an hour and be like super focused. Sometimes you just want to relax, have something enjoy, just have that moment at home or wherever you may be. So introducing it is in that kind of a frame. But those moments of indulgence are part of anyone's best version of their life as well. So I think it does make sense at the same time. That, you know, roll out into retail. How did you approach that? Were you guys actively trying to get in? Did they hit you up? How did you get into the door with Woolies? So we were trying to get into Woolworths for years, to be honest. And like, they were always like, interesting concept, like what you guys are doing, but no. It's like it's not their customer? Yeah, it's not what they were looking for. Like they kind of have a different data set that they look at in terms of the coffee aisle and what's moving for them. Like if pods is growing massively, they just need more pods. Yeah. So like they've obviously got limited shelf space. So it was actually randomly, maybe a couple of years ago, they ended up just filling out our website contact form and said, category manager for Woolies, I need to talk to someone about functional coffee. You guys are the functional coffee guys. Can someone contact me? So had a chat with them. We got ranged in just like their top tier stores, which was about 270 doors. And I guess within that, like we went in and whenever you deal with these majors, they kind of make you commit to marketing through their own channels as well. So they've got their own agency called Cartology. And normally as a brand, you need to commit X amount of marketing spend with these guys to get your products moving. Now, we haven't spent $1 with those guys to date. And I think because we're able to drive consumers and customers in, like new customers into their stores from our audience, like they started to see that going really well. And like, okay, these guys are doing cool things with their marketing, the partnerships they've got going on. Yeah. So they came to us and kind of said, this is the fastest growing segment of the category. We've got Nescafe, Moccona, they need to start building out more product options in there. So opportunity kind of comes up like with that. And again, it's different to what we're currently doing. So we kind of had a conversation around it. It's like thought, if this is the direction we want to go in and the scale we want to get to, it makes sense. So fortunate to be in a position where we've kind of partnered with them to know what these lines are that we're bringing out. And if we get this right, we're aiming to be a full category solution.
Was there a consideration when you started moving into retail? Obviously, most of the time it's a great move for companies, but if you're doing really well in e-com, it can cannibalize your e-com sales, in which you obviously have a better margin than when you're selling it through retailers. How did you plan around making sure it wouldn't cannibalize too much what you're doing with e-com and it would add to the business rather than take away? Because sometimes, look, accessibility is great, but it doesn't always work out that way for people.
For sure. I guess with the functional blends, like we only put our 7 serves in there to begin with. So majority of our sales come through our 30 serve boxes.
Yeah.
So it was more of a, hey, if you're doing your Woolies shop and like you've run out and you just need a weekly top up, you can kind of grab it there. So, and for new people coming into the brand, like they're going to try it, but you're not just going to keep buying 7 serve packs. So that was the strategy with the
cool
functional blends
as well for you guys.
100%. And then with the new ones, like we'll give Woolies 12 or 13 weeks to start with, where it's not even going on e-commerce. Because for us to have success with Woolworths and then get that right, we need to get hit the minimum hurdle rates and stuff on these products.
Yeah.
So we got to give that the best chance that we can, and then we'll introduce them online as well. And again, it's a bit of an unknown, but it might be a product that's more of an upsell, because if you're running like ads and trying to get acquisition costs on a box of coffee, that'll be priced at $8.50 compared to like
pretty difficult
$70. Yeah, it's like you need to be acquiring them for a lot cheaper. So TBC.
Yeah. What about with the RTDs now? We were just talking about, we had Steve on from Hyro, obviously also was one of the co-founders of Shine. And he spoke about like doing RTDs is a big thing that he didn't want to do going into the next one, because in terms of logistics and margins and shipping, there's a lot more costs involved there. Have you found, obviously it took you 5 years to develop the product, but in terms of like getting it to the price you need and logistics, has it been like an extra degree of difficulty to do RTDs just for people thinking of doing different things in the future?
Yeah, it's been very tricky. Again, hence why it's taken us 5 years. It's like finding the right manufacturing partners that can kind of get the MOQs and make the commercials work has been definitely challenging. But it's like now that we've got the product right, even process with retailers, like to get it ranged to the stores again, like they'll have one major category review per year, and then they'll have some minor reviews throughout the year. So I was like, if you don't get in, well, you're waiting. Yeah, you're waiting a long time until that opportunity comes around again. So I was like, you've just got to commit to the minimum order quantities, which are quite high, and then just really hope you can push them out in time before you run out of shelf life.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts to, like you said, an inventory-based business, particularly ones, at least like with IPL and my business, they don't go out of date.
Yeah.
It's even more crazy when you got a sell-by date on there. Another question I wanted to ask you, because it seems like you guys have obviously done really well in terms of performance marketing. Is there any considerations, or is it ever challenging to balance performance marketing, say if you want to do like a big birthday sale or whatever, with, brand building, marketing at the same time?
Yeah. So like we don't typically do deep discounts. Black Friday once a year is the only time we'll do deep discounts now. Cause like we find even with our product, like we've got a very strong subscription customer. So it's a habitual product. Like people can kind of typically get it delivered once a month, or you can kind of choose your frequency. And like what we don't want to do is go deep discounting and have all of our subscription customers get upset that they're not getting the discount, and then they want to cancel just to buy on the sale, and then they may not reactivate the subscription. Yeah. So it can kind of do more bad than good for the business. So we'll do more tactical things, and we might reduce it 15%, which is in line, but then do like gift with purchase and do some gifting kind of mechanic with the sale.
With your subscriptions, was that something that you guys activated pretty early on? I've heard, you think subscriptions is always going to be like a really good decision for businesses with consumable products, but I reckon like 30% of the time I speak to people was like, it just did not work for us. Was it a challenge to get that model right with the pricing and everything, or did it sort of bang for you guys straight away?
No, to be honest, we had a lot of trouble with retailers early on because they were like, if you guys are offering your product 15% cheaper, why should I hold your recommended retail price on shelf? And then what we didn't want to do is have everyone just drop the price. So we had a subscription product, but we actually had the page hidden for like the first 3 or so years. And I was like, where it trickled through. But I think over the years, as subscriptions just became more common and more people started doing it in retail, like they started to just accept it a little bit more. So it's only really been the last 2.5 years that we've really been able to kind of give it a good push.
Mm-hmm. I want to chat to you about some marketing stuff because we've had some pretty good chats about that. Thinking back, you know, it's been 8 or so years since you guys have launched. Is there a particular marketing campaign that outperformed your expectations more than anything else?
Nothing pops to mind. I think it's just being consistent and like, sure, there's been a few that have like done well, but there hasn't been any like massive outliers that I've found that really stick out.
How do you guys, like, how has your like paid marketing evolved over the years? First question, actually, before that, have you guys had better success with running your ads internally or partnering with agencies? Probably
internally. So had a few issues with agencies, like again, like where we worked with Jay and the e-com equation guys, like I was probably one of his first clients, and we switched a few times back and forth with them doing the ads and then us jumping back in and doing the ads and getting too busy and then getting them to do the ads. I guess when we brought in the management team, they moved away from them to another agency and just like didn't monitor anything. It's like by the time I then checked, so I was like, nobody even touched the ad account like over a month.
Yeah,
so I was
that
like,
happens.
That day I fired everyone. Or fired the agency, sorry, not like my team.
Yeah.
But the last 2 years I've probably done it, most of it myself. Mm-hmm. It's only, we literally onboarded a new agency this week.
Wow. Happening.
Yeah. I've been doing it at about a 5% capacity because I just haven't, like, it's been ticking along, doing what it needs to do. The numbers have been fine, but for how the rest of the business is growing right now, like we just thought it was time to get some extra help to kind of at least do the technical side of things.
Why do you think you go to an agency and not hire someone to do that in-house under your supervision?
I have tried that as well.
It's fucking hard to hire really good people in-house, right?
Yeah, 100%. It's been hard to find good talent. And I think like the guys we're working with now have been recommended from close mates who have got really good results. And it's like, you know, the e-commerce community in Australia is like, it's very small, it's very niche. Everyone kind of knows everyone. Is like, if their word holds weight, like I do trust that they'll do a good job. So
it's such a high value skill. If anyone realizes how good they are, they all want to start their own agency. Or they want to, So it's, I asked you the question, but I've been there too. It's such a hard role to hire for internally. And then I've also made the mistake of hiring from big businesses and like bringing in marketing managers that have worked for like massive companies, and then you realize, holy shit, they know nothing about e-com, and it's such a different, it's such like a niche thing, and there isn't that much like high level talent in that space. But obviously Facebook and Meta is evolved a lot over the years to the point that now it's like a lot less hands-on than it used to be. Do you have any pieces of advice or any like key learnings that you could share about Meta ads in 2025? Like just whatever comes to mind for those that are listening.
Yeah, I think for founders, you need to get in there and at least understand how to manage it and like what the fundamentals are yourself. Again, like we're still part of like coaching groups and stuff. So we still work with those guys. I still get in the ad account every day and look at it, but it's really like the complexity is just around making sure your audiences are all set up properly, making sure the biggest thing these days I find is just like the volume of creative and just creative testing. Like that makes all the difference with running ads at the moment. And that's where I guess we were starting to lack because I wasn't briefing anything into my creative team because I simply didn't have the time to go through and do it. And it's like then aligning the creative with the landing page and the messaging. So it's like the funnel is, I guess, working properly, but it's being tested. having someone in the business doing that, whether it's yourself or like delegating to a team member, I think that's going to move the needle.
What is your process? Because you're 100% right. Like 90% of meta these days is it's a content game. It's creative driven. Do you what's your process with creative internally? Like, is it, you have like a content manager? Do you create a lot of it internally and then you have partners? Like, what does that look like for you guys? Because it's the hardest thing. Everyone's like, yes, we need more content. Well, it's not like you can just click your fingers and there you go.
Yeah, we're lucky. So we do have like a world-class creative team. So it's like we've got our social media manager, then we've got our head of creative and two, I guess, more like senior graphic design as well. So we've got a studio set up in our warehouse as well. So in terms of like just product and a little bit of lifestyle stuff, the guys can jump down there and like turn out things really quickly, which allows us to kind of move at speed. It's probably just more so the other, like the UGC style where we're lagging a little bit at the moment. Is like we're putting a structure in place that allows us to kind of lean on some partners to help out with that as well.
And have you and Ash, like, have you guys done much of like the founder based content properly? Like, I know you don't really do any podcasts or anything. You'd be surprised like how many people have said, I just started doing it. It's our best performing creatives.
Yeah. I think we tried it once and it tanked and it was like, sweet, we don't have to do that again.
Yeah, it's a bit like that. We spoke about retail expansion, but you mentioned like you're launching into the UAE or Dubai or something. What does international expansion look like for you guys?
Yeah. Like we haven't put a big focus on it right now. Like we dabbled in the US in the early days, but it's not really a market you can kind of dabble in either.
No, you got to be there really.
Yeah. So like we're doing maybe 30, 40 grand a month in the US, like prior to COVID. And like we were going over there a fair bit. We just done a deal with GNC Online. So we're about to roll out with those guys, but then COVID hit. And then they went into administration, like logistics costs like went up 400%. So we're losing dollars in every unit. So we ended up kind of pulling the pin on the US market and we haven't gone back there. Like we still sell a little bit of e-com across there, but it's not a target. So for us, it's like getting these big opportunities in our own backyard, right? Because I guess our resources are here. It's easier to not have split focus. But like you said, we have launched in the UAE this week and that's kind of been almost a 2-year process, to be honest. So we launched into 25 stores with Spinneys, one of the big grocery retailers over there. And that's been off the back of like where we connected with a guy, Kiwi boy. He's was playing rugby in the UK and was on his way home and stopped in Dubai and I just don't think he ever left. So he helped launch products like Women's Best and stuff over there. So he had a network already, came across our product and he just kind of put it in front of some retailers. It's like, would you be interested in something like this? And then connected with us and it's like, I've already got interest for your brand. Let's talk about doing something. So
what are some of the considerations that, because it's really easy to get an opportunity and want to rush in, you know, like most entrepreneurs are sales and marketing focused and they want to just, let's just sell it and we'll figure out the rest later. But with things like, you know, regulations and import duties and what you can and can't say, what are some of the considerations that founders need to be careful of when they move into a new international market?
Yeah, I think understanding like the governance and the compliance with it. So even like with UAE, Saudi markets that we're starting to roll into, like we've got to register all of our products individually with, I guess, their government or their online platforms and stuff. There's a lot more considerations with that to get it right. Like a lot of products, if you have sugar and stuff in your products, there's extra taxes or sugar taxes and stuff. So it's like really just getting the lay of the land and probably having someone who's an expert over there that you can kind of lean on, but making sure you structure those deals right. Because like we've done that in the US as well with a bunch of cowboys that kind of tell you that they'll sell you the dream. We're paying them close to 10 grand a month and delivered nothing after 6 months. So it's finding the right people that are willing to, I guess, back your brand. So like the way we structured it with the new guy we're working with is like we didn't pay him $1 until we got an order. So
100%.
I was like, if you're willing to do the work and like get us to that point, it's yours. But until that point, like you just really need to be careful with a lot of salespeople and brokers or whatever they want to call themselves.
And then like within Australia, what is like your experience or relationship been like with the TGA? Is it pretty rigorous for everything that you guys have to release has to go through them? What is
so like we're not like none of our products are TGA approved.
Okay.
Like we can pay to go down that path, but it's very costly to do as well. So we may end up doing it for like our performance coffee alone, just because then you can actually start to make some claims with the product, which is tricky. So we have had Queensland Health knock on our door a couple of times over the years, or I guess the first time was for making product claims and stuff that we potentially couldn't.
Yeah.
Like everything we do stays compliant with FSANZ, which is like the food and beverage for Australia and New Zealand. So being compliant with those guys in terms of their rules and regulations, but like that's something you need to constantly be watching as well, because twice with our adrenal coffee, like they've changed the rulings on ingredients. So first rhodiola, second like ashwagandha. Like as soon as they put it on their novelty foods list, you can't actually have it as an ingredient.
I heard that about ashwagandha in the last year or so. Like what's the change? Like where does this come from?
Don't know. All these things is like they don't believe there's enough evidence and research and testing done on it, which is crazy because like there's a hell of a lot.
But you can still buy it as a supplement.
Yeah.
But you can't put it in a drink or a food.
No, correct.
Anyway, I've had
tricky game.
Yeah, I've had. You know what? They do be ball breakers sometimes, but our dealings with the TJ have actually all been good. The first time they reach out and you get that letter, you're like, holy shit, the world's going to end. This is the worst thing ever. But I think, that's at the end of the day, if the people working in these, organizations are humans too. And if you approach them with like respect and honesty,
100%. They're just there to do their job. Like both times for us as well, like they've actually just turned up at our office.
Wow.
So it was Queensland Health, but it's always come off the back of a competitor trying to dob on us. Like the last time was, again, it was one of the ingredients, but they came in with like a 7 or 8 page report that someone had got consultants to crawl through every product and our whole website. So I was probably one of the bigger guys, knew that we were coming into market. But again, once you grow, you just got to play by the rules. Otherwise it's too much of a legal nightmare. Yeah.
What's your response when you like figure out that, one of your competitors has done that?
There's not much you can do. Like, it's not worth wasting time and energy on it. It's like, it's much easier in the long run just to kind of make the tweaks that you need to do and then keep moving. Like, it's not our, I guess, way we want to do business. Like, we'll focus on ourselves. If people are doing that, it goes to show you're doing something right.
Yeah. I remember because because they don't just 99% of the time someone's reported you or told them about you, and that's how you get on their radar. But I think you don't really get on their radar unless you're making enough noise. I think it's a compliment when it does happen. And I've had those moments I'm like, you know what, like F you guys, I'm going to go report every single one of you. But it's like, I just doesn't sit right with the way I want to operate, and it doesn't feel right either. I'd rather just beat you anyway. But we'll start to wrap up. I just want to ask you a few more questions around like that journey and like advice for like those early stage entrepreneurs, because there's a lot that listen to this. Now, if you were starting a brand in 2025, very different to 2017, what would that first 90 days look like now? Like what would be the key things you'd be spending your time and effort on in the early stages?
I think even getting to before that first 90 days is like making sure you're bringing out a product in a market that's growing or already has some validation. Mm-hmm. So you're getting in where it could have been a competitor's already kind of built the demand gen, like they've already told the audience that there's a need for a product like this, and they've done a lot of like the heavy lifting for you, and it's like kind of bringing in a product and you might have make sure you've got a point of difference, like something stands out. You've got some kind of unique selling proposition to lean into, and just really being clear on who your audience is, who your number is, making sure you've got enough product margins. So when you do start to go into business, like, you can acquire customers and reinvest to acquire the next customer. Yeah. Like if you get that cash conversion cycle right, and you can kind of keep rolling that, build brand with e-commerce in the early days. And I think even like there's always a lot of like, do we do e-commerce? Do we do retail? I think if I was starting a brand now, it would definitely be going the e-commerce path. Yeah. You've just got more control with what you're doing and get to a stage like it's helped all of our conversations. Like once you build your brand to a certain size, it gives you more leverage in these conversations as well. And it kind of de-risks a lot of what you're doing when you do go to retail.
Yeah. If you were starting in, I know this is a random question because you're not even thinking about other products outside of before you speak. If you had to forget about that, it's done, there's no going back. What sort of product would you look to launch next? Because like you said, you want to be moving in an industry that's growing and you want to get your margins right. Like, do you have any ideas of like what sort of product you would do if you couldn't touch coffee again?
does it have to be inventory based?
Okay, so it wouldn't be inventory based.
Information products, something with like 99% margins.
Yeah,
like inventories it's a tough slog.
It is.
I'm not sure. Maybe something in the information kind of space, or something in like. I just have always been passionate about, I guess, health in general. So it's like health and longevity, maybe something kind of that element, but like looking at bringing in more of a technical side of things, like what's coming online with being able to kind of do all your blood work and diagnostics. And then in the next kind of 5 or so years, everything's going to be very personalized in health. Yeah. And I think like that's an exciting wave as AI starts to come into it. Really understanding where the opportunities are there, because like building a brand and a business over the next couple of years, like you're going to be able to do a lot with AI that allows you to just remove the need for fixed costs and having so many headcount in the business. And that's going to allow you to move, I guess, more profitably and reinvest into the growth of your business. So I think it's an exciting time. You're going to see a lot of new brands and new businesses start to move really quickly.
Yeah, like e-com was like the cool thing. Now it's becoming like AI, right? And like all these like 21-year-old kids and 19-year-old kids building these AI agent businesses and all this stuff. It's really cool to see. And like, again, similar to e-com, small barrier to entry. So like you don't necessarily have to go raise 100,000 in capital in order to start. So I think there's going to be a lot of potential across a lot of different spaces. But I think the big thing that you said in terms of for the people that are really passionate about e-com is getting a product where your margins are going to be healthy enough for you to facilitate that growth. And was that a challenge for you guys? I guess with like the 30 packs, you kind of had that sort of perfect sweet spot where you could get probably not a super high AOV when you just had that one product. If you're selling for 70, probably want to be 80 or above to really be able to scale that, acquisition on that first sale. But you had a decent size initial AOV with a repeat purchase product. The thing that the weakness about Happy Skin Co was it's a one-time purchase with no real potential for repeat purchase. So was that a challenge, or did you have enough margin to be profitable on the first sale to keep reinvesting then and not have to wait for all the LTV to come through?
Yeah, no, definitely not. So it was more so just making sure we had the systems in place, because it is a habitual product. Yeah. Just making sure our follow-up process to like, it probably takes us like our break-even point with our CAC is probably our third order most of the time. Yeah, that's
crazy. See, and like people want to move in and start like a consumable product, and I have these conversations all the time. I'm like, you can, and there's loads of examples of people succeeding, but what you don't know is they're often not making profit for the first, year, 2 years, 3 years, you know what I mean? So you really got to know you really got to know your numbers and where the profit point comes in. How important that then has like your own channels like email and SMS been for you guys?
Massive. Like they're still where you pull all the profit from. And again, subscriptions for us, like we're probably close to 50-50 with our e-commerce is like subscription-based revenue.
That's where you want to be, right?
Yeah. So it's like, at least every month you've got enough coming in to kind of cover like a lot of your fixed costs. And then like getting your offering right to really kind of grow that side of the business, because again, like chasing customers and trying to run ads at them is like, it's expensive. It's costly.
How have you built out email within your business? Because so important for what you guys are doing. Have you guys gone to email agencies? Have you built that internally? And like, how involved have you been in that process? Because email's really like, it's simple-ish to set up, but if you do one thing wrong, you're going to miss a lot of opportunity to bring in additional revenue. Have you set that up yourself, or did you go external for email?
So we have like done stuff with agencies in the past, but like for the last maybe 3 or 4 years, it's all been internal. So we do all of that in-house. It just allows us, because like things change so quickly in business, and like you might be running a promotion or like product that you thought was going to turn up on time, just you had some kind of logistics issue and wasn't, so you need to pivot and like change the bundles that you've got.
Yes.
So it's allowed us to kind of just be nimble and have a little bit more control. We probably try to do 3 to 4 campaign-based emails to like our highly engaged audience every week. And then whenever you do like external, like bigger promotions, we'll kind of blast that to our full audience.
Yeah.
Again, like that's getting trickier as well with all of like the spam filters and stuff.
It's crazy, huh?
SMS is really kind of taking off for us, which is good. But again, like you don't want to be pissing people off and just nailing them with SMS unless you've got something to talk about and an offer.
What are your key flows?
like we've got obviously our welcome series flow that kind of comes through anyone new coming into the brand. All of the post-purchase stuff to make sure, I guess, people are getting the right product experience. They know how to use the product in the way. Just really kind of driving like, hey, you've made a good purchase decision and here's why.
Reinforcing that decision.
Obviously all like the abandoned cart, browse abandonment.
And do you guys use Klaviyo or do you use another?
No, we use Klaviyo.
Klaviyo is the best one. Cool. Final couple questions. When you're feeling, have you ever had those moments where you feel feeling, well, I know you have because we've already spoken on something similar, overwhelmed and overstressed. And like, what do you do in those moments? Because as you said, there's people that are doing 10K per month that are stressed and there's people doing 10 million per month that are stressed. It's all the way through. You've seen that now as well with your introduction to the F1 world. What are your key things that you do to help rebalance yourself or realign yourself when you're feeling a little bit too frazzled? Yeah,
I think I'm getting much better at it these days. Like it takes a lot to rock me. I'm always kind of like my high highs and my low lows, they're all kind of like my baseline's kind of fairly steady. But I think for me, it's like just staying, like having my own habitual things that I like to stick to in my personal routine. It's like just making sure you're still getting your sleep. I get to the gym almost like 6-7 days a week. It's having those things and also kind of having the lens on it that allows you to kind of just take a step back when you're in it so much. You kind of take a step back and it's like you look at all the moments like this that you've had over the past 5 or however many years that you've been in business and you've made it through every one. So it's like, it's not the end of the world. Take a breath, take a step back and then kind of give yourself some time to kind of be out of it to then look at it with a fresh set of eyes. And I think it's all something I'm really trying to get better at is like the practice of gratitude, because like you said, no matter what level you're at, you're going to have problems that you need to solve and you're going to have stresses. So we got to be sort of like grateful for the problems that you do have. And it's like pressure is a privilege. And it's like realizing, you know, however many years ago you would have dreamt to be in this position doing what you do for work now. So like a little bit of a reality shift. But it's easier said than done, right? I think as well with me, and this is something I definitely need to get better at, when things get really hectic, I need to work more time. The first, like I'll skip gym or I'll skip, you know, doing like some of my Tai Chi stuff or, you know, some of the things that really help keep me grounded. But I feel like when you're in those peak moments of stress and under the most amount of pressure, that's when your routine is most needed. So not to let go of that. Have you had moments of that where you've had to realize that, learn that lesson again? Yeah. Like you said, pressure is a privilege. I think my view on it's like, you asked for this, like buckle up, like, genuinely get into it. Like it's character building. It's like not everybody's cut out for it, but it's like if you really want to get to, I guess, the level that we're kind of aspiring to get to, I was like, you know, it's not going to be an easy path. I was like, you know, you're on the right track. Like nothing comes without problems. 100%. And I think as well, you look at like the last 5, 6, 7 years, entrepreneurship's been like the cool thing to do. So I think it's probably attracted a lot of people that probably aren't entrepreneurs, and that's fine. Like if you have a goal and something you think you want to chase, go and like give it a proper crack. But then if it's not for you, it's not for you, because if you don't like solving problems and dealing with a high amount of stress and like also being able to separate yourself from that and like you said, try and remain at that, you know, level steady state, not lows aren't too low, highs aren't too high. I think that's the only way to navigate it for like longevity. I'm saying decades and decades in business. So I mean, I'm still learning. I'm sure you are too. Yeah, I guess every painful moment is an opportunity for growth. Like it's an opportunity to learn something new. So I thrive in it. Yeah, and like again, you want to have gratitude for those moments because those are the times you learn most. But when you're in it, you just feel like fuck this shit. You know what I mean? But final 2 questions, a bit of a change of pace. What's one thing that you can't get off your mind at the moment? Business or otherwise? Good question. I think like I'm at the moment, like I'm so in just getting this Woolworth stuff to work. It's like when I don't know if you've read the book, The One Thing. I haven't, no, but I've been recommended it many times. Pretty obvious what it's about. Yeah. It's having a focus, and it's kind of like, what is the number one thing that if you got this right, everything else in your business would be so much easier or like irrelevant, like anything. So for us to get this right and execute on this well over the next 6 months could change the trajectory of what we're doing as a business. So outside of that, I've kind of had blinkers on. at the moment. So it's just doubling down on that and just making sure we execute.
I said 2 last questions, but I lied. I want to ask one more before the last one. The one thing, right, that whole concept is something I've had to learn as well. Now, you've started the software brand, you've probably had other little ideas of projects and businesses along the way. What is the whole overall lesson about when you've got one successful business going and starting multiple others?
I think like the challenge for me was like starting it. I was like, I wasn't sure at the time that Before You Speak was going to get to where we wanted to get to. I also had like extra time on my hands because I put in a CEO, and I was like, I just couldn't sit still. So I was like, I need to be doing something or feel like I'm very driven by growth and progress. So I was like, I need to feel like I'm doing something. So saw an opportunity. Like I thought everything I touched turns to gold at this point. And I was like, BOS crushed it. I was like, I'll do a tech thing. Well, like crazy multiples on tech, gonna be super rich in a few years. Like
I'll own the F1 team. You know what I mean?
Ironically, like lost a lot of money. But I think it's like going through those lessons. The big reason probably I did it was because I wanted to make sure I was going to get to something that was going to get me to a high level. And when I was uncertain if that was going to be the coffee brand, I was still looking for things outside of that. But I think reframing it and looking at it in a sense where is the vehicle you're in able to get to where you want to get to? Like, is there other brands that have done it, or is there something that gives you the signals that it's possible? If yes, what time horizon have they done it on?
Yeah.
It's like, do you really understand that the game that you're in and like what it's going to take? Again, assume you're not going to be the outlier. Again, there's brands and companies that might do, these guys raised $60 million and they got this crazy valuation. Like, assume that's not you. Yeah. And then bring yourself back to like, be grounded and just like, well, if we're to do this incrementally, how long is this going to take? And just like, further out your time horizon. So for us, like building a coffee brand is like building something in CPG. Like you get, especially now that we're going heavy into the retail path, it's like you get one major category review per year. You need to make that work. And if that works well, then you get to expand lines. If you miss that category review, you've got to wait another 12 months. So it's like the brands like that we're going to try and go in and compete with now and take market share from. So your Nescafes, Mokonas, these guys have been around for decades, some of them like over 100 years. So it's like the time horizon we're working to, as long as we're getting positive market signals that we're doing the right thing, we're growing in the right direction, we're still getting positive feedback from our brand and community, and we're staying kind of true to how we want to build the brand, and we're seeing that incremental growth, just keep going.
Yeah, I think you made a really good point early on in what you were just saying there. Like, is that vehicle you're in now, can that get you to where you want to go? Right. And I think you got to have like some pretty like good self-awareness, to be honest with yourself, and not be taking the easy way out and not obviously giving up too early, but also being realistic with it as well. So I think that's a really, really good piece of advice. My final question was, if you ever have those nights where you can't sleep, like what's usually on your mind keeping you up?
Probably cash flow.
I've heard that one a few times. Fair enough, a business at your stage with all that inventory moving around and deals on the table. I feel like it's a pretty common answer.
Apart from that, I sleep pretty well.
Yeah, and that goes to show the coffee's doing well. It's not keeping you up at night as well. So, Jaryd, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. I know you're not a massive podcast guy outside of this week, so really appreciate it. I know it was awesome conversation. Our listeners will get tons of value out of it. Now, for those that want to follow along, learn more either about yourself or the coffee, where can they find both yourself and Before You Speak online?
Probably easiest is just Instagram, again, Before You Speak Coffee, and I'll be floating around there somewhere. Jaryd
Terk will link his details in the show notes and on YouTube. Thank you very much. Podcast in the books. Well done.
Thanks for
Cheers,
having me.
brother. Appreciate it.